We have big news 2 weeks from now. By the way, this is big news. It's great news, but it also requires a little bit of bending, okay? And I'll explain that in just a moment. But on Sunday, August 28th, we are going to move to Henry James Auditorium. Okay, now, if you were here in the spring, you got a little taste of this, but we are moving there for the foreseeable future of church life. And I'm super excited about this for a few reasons. You should be excited too. Number one, Henry James is really sort of in the thoroughfare of our society, okay, of the cultural movements. If you live in Simsbury anyways, there is a lot of people that pass through there. If you have kids that grew up playing sports here in Simsbury, you undoubtedly went to Henry James for your kids to play sports. It's also the place of what is a growing amount of theatrical productions. It's also the place where it's a middle school in this town. And so there is just a lot of people, a lot of families that will travel through Henry James. Second, it is a premier venue. In fact, I'm not sure there's a better place in the Farmington Valley to rent to do church than the new auditorium that they've built there. And if you've been there, if you haven't been there, you ought to come and check it out. It's just an amazing place for us to do church together there. And then finally, it minimizes the setup massively. It allows us to really focus our attention on doing church and being churched for one another and not spending so much energy on setting up church. And so we are moving there in 2 years. This started actually before COVID. We've been working on this for about 2.5 years now, 3 years now, moving in, and it has involved a lot of turns and changes along the way. So this is a big blessing to us as a community, as a church community, to move there. It's a big blessing, yet it requires what I'm just going to call some holy bending, okay? That the Spirit is going to cause us to bend a little bit. And here's what I mean by that. For the initial season of ministry at Henry James, we've been asked by the school to shift our worship by 45 minutes. Okay, so our worship at Henry James, at least for the initial season, is going to start at 10:45 a.m. And we believe that there's some opportunity here to possibly adjust this as we get going. But initially, we've been asked to shift by 45 minutes. And we believe, for the reasons I've already stated, that this is the place that we need to be. Now, here's what we know. 70% of our congregation arrives within the first 5 to 10 minutes of the worship service. So all you got to do is just come at the same time and you'll be early. Right? It'll be just incredible. And yes, Bob, we can hand those out now. Bob is going to, or some of the ushers are going to be handing out some information on the shift. But we will be monitoring over the first month there and adjusting as we just understand how this is working for our congregation. We have some different ideas of things that we could do so that everyone can worship. But we just believe, we prayed about this, we've thought about this, we believe that the best thing that we can do right now is just focus our congregation on shifting over there. We're going to worship at 10:45 a.m. And as we pursue this fall kickoff, I want us to think about the opportunity that we have to join the mission of God in this shift. In my lifetime, as we think about the fall, there has never been a time that more church people are not going to church. Just think about that for a moment. There's an awful lot of people in our community that grew up going to church, were going to church, and currently are not going to church. COVID did this to us. And so I want us to be thinking about who is it that we might invite this fall to join us at church that currently is not going to church. We also know that there's more unchurched people today than ever in America, people that have never been to church. And so we have another opportunity just to consider who is it that we live around, that we interact with in our relational networks that needs a body of Jesus that we might invite. And the last thing I would just mention is this, that when there is something new, it creates great curiosity. And so as we step into this new season, we want to leverage, take advantage of this new season and just invite people to come and join us. And so As your pastor, I'm just asking us to consider three things as we move into this. First of all, would you just pray about three individuals or homes that you might invite to come join us this fall? And it could be on the 28th, it could be in September, but who are three homes, individuals that need a body of Jesus, people that they can do life together with and that they can join together in mission in? And would you invite them? Would you invite them to come join us? The second action step would be, would you consider putting one of these signs in your front yard? It's really just to get the word out, and as people are driving around town, that maybe they would see it and ask questions. I'm curious to know how many of my neighbors, we've been out the last couple of weeks, but how many of my neighbors will just kind of say, hey, tell me about your church. And so there are yard signs at the very back. We'll put them at Mill Pond. If you're watching online, you can pick them up at Mill Pond, but would you add a lawn sign? And then finally, there will be more social media posts that we're going to make just so people know where we are and that we're here as we move into the fall. And would you consider just liking those, or would you just like those or share those on your social media post? We're talking today about the mission of God. And the mission of God is to seek and to save those who are lost, to seek and to bring people into community, that his kingdom would come and his will would be done. Would you join together and let's charge into the fall, sharing the good news of God and being the people of God for the glory of God. Amen?